Here we go then. Take 3 of the Always Better Than Yesterday interview sessions, episode 32, with the incredibly inspiring author, best-selling author and inspiring speaker of this book and many other great books, Paul McGee. Hopefully we're going to get this conversation happening. Let's do our best to have a great conversation. Paul is here. I'm going to try and add him on now. It will be worth the wait, I am sure.
Can you see me?
I can see you. It's never been such a beautiful sight in all my life.
I wish my wife would say the same.
Mr. Paul McGee, how are you?
Well, now I'm talking to you, Ryan. I'm feeling great. How are you, sir?
Fantastic. I am much more relieved. I was just about to go on a talk about, sometimes things don't pan out and you've got to kind of use all the mindset stuff.
On a scale of 1 to 10, where 10's death?
Absolutely. This is a good 7.5.
We're here now.
Absolutely.
And I've even got, am I your first guest to ever have their headphones, the colour of them, coordinate with the colour of their shirt?
It's absolutely exquisite. They are brilliant. Could you please do me the honour and privilege of introducing your good self to our watchers and our listeners?
Okay. How long would you like me to take?
As long as you'd like to take.
All right. Okay. So Paul McGee, known as the Sumo Guy, background is in behavioural and social psychology, trained as a probation officer. So if anyone's looking at me now thinking, that face rings a bell, don't say anything, don't make any comments. I'm just glad life's turned out for you better than when I last saw you. Didn't pursue being a probation officer, went into HR, human resources, worked with Bird's Eye Walls, frozen food manufacturer, spent quite a bit of time in an office pushing pen and paper, then a life-changing conversation with the factory manager who said, it'd be really good for your development if you spent some time actually in the factory managing the 30 women on the economy beef burger line. My 2 main lessons from that experience was, number 1, and everyone listen to this, don't eat economy beef burgers. Secondly, as I always say, when arrogance meets ignorance, that is a really dangerous cocktail. I was a bit of both. I thought managing 30 women should be relatively straightforward. Let me tell you, it wasn't. Big change in my life. I lost my job through ill health. I became ill with an illness called ME. Chronic fatigue syndrome, and I was ill for 3 years. And when I felt I was well enough to get a little part-time job, I couldn't, because no one had hired me because I couldn't pass a medical. So nearly 28 years ago, I hired myself. I went self-employed, and to encourage anyone, whoever takes a bit of a risk, in my first year of business, I turned over £2,300. My accountant sacked me. I paid no tax and no national insurance. It wasn't the best of starts. So it's fair to say I've not been an overnight success. It's taken me a long, long time. So that's a little bit of a flavour of my background.
And now you work in hundreds of countries around the world, and you speak on the biggest of stages, helping, is it Manchester City Football Club as well?
Yeah, I've been involved with Manchester City since 2010, and I've worked with some of the players. I've worked with quite a lot of their staff as well. So that's given me a different perspective. But you know what? Some people might have a bigger pay packet than other people, but we still have issues with confidence, relationships, rejection, and setbacks that happen in life.
Absolutely, it's human. It's all people, isn't it? And it's interesting you say, because obviously this is the 10th anniversary edition of Sumo, and I only came across it last year, and obviously your message is still being spread, and it's one that I'm really proud and pleased to be able to keep spreading, because I think this book is incredible. I thought your talk that you delivered at the College of Policing in the end of 2018 was just mind-blowing. I look at that and I just thought, wow, that is the standard to kind of aim for. If I could be half of that, I'd be super pleased and proud. So
and one of the key things about what I do is I'm very clear on what I'm not good at. And I think maybe even from being a kid, I thought, I don't mind standing up in front of groups of people. Maybe I can make you laugh and smile occasionally. But the crucial thing is, it's never just about gift. It's about grit. And I've spent thousands and thousands of hours developing my material, researching things. And of course, every time I speak, it's a chance to kind of practice what I'm actually doing. So when you say if you could be as half as good, I mean, that's very complimentary. But it's like sometimes I feel like people compare their chapter 2 with someone's chapter 29. And, you know, things do take time, and it is about hard work as well.
Yeah, I love that. And you know, so much of your books are, they're simple and they're practical. Why is, you know, I think you talked about that's part of your values. Like, why is that?
My brother is a doctor in philosophy, and he said to me recently, he said, Paul, I write, himself writes for the intellectual elite. So he might literally get a dozen other professors or peers read his books. He said, you write for the man in the street or woman in the street. And I suppose I would always say the best way to describe this is I'm not the sharpest tool in the toolbox. So when it comes to understanding things, maybe I'm a little bit slower than some people who get it instantly. So I have to really understand something, get it clear in my own head, and then think, how can I best explain that in a way that is really simple and other people can get? I mean, I always joke, Albert Einstein once said to me on his deathbed, take your foot off my neck. He then added, the definition of genius is the ability to make the complex simple.
Yeah.
And I suppose I just spend a lot of time trying to think, how can I communicate this in a way that, I mean, children can get and adults can get. I mean, we're now doing, one of the big things about my business is I've just setting up something called the Sumo for Schools Foundation, which is all about life skills for kids to last a lifetime.
Yeah.
And I was at an event this week gone where I spoke to 25 chief execs in the morning running multi-million-pound businesses. Then I was at a school in Wolverhampton in the afternoon. Yeah, and I had about, I don't know, 40 or 50 people in the room, but they included children aged from year 1 to 6 with their parents, with staff. And I had a brilliant time working with them. And I'm thinking, you know, sumo is for life, not just your work, but your personal life, but it's also for any age and for any background.
I love that. And you know, one of your principles in the 35 ways to success is about live your life on purpose. And I guess there must be something there within your own purpose that makes you feel like that. Are you clear on your own purpose?
I think, I mean, what's the story that's quite interesting from that book is all about Alfred Nobel, who is known for setting up the Nobel Prizes, like the Peace Prize, the Prize for Economics. What a lot of people don't know is he actually invented dynamite. And he actually, his brother Ludwig died. The press got hold of the wrong end of the story, and they thought that Alfred had died. So he actually read his own obituary the day after his brother had died. And the headline was, "The Merchant of Death is Dead." So in 6 words, his life was summed up. And I suppose I think all of us need some kind of purpose. It doesn't have to be something dramatic or I'm going to change the world. But if you're a parent, you've got a purpose to be the best parent you can be. If you're a husband or wife, whatever, to whoever you're married to in a relationship, how can I be the best spouse, the best partner to that person? So purpose, I think, is something that is fundamental to all of us. So I'm not going to be kind of all melodramatic and go, I have this amazing purpose in life.
Yep.
I just kind of think, you know, I am this slightly below average in height bloke from Manchester who was born in 1964, who had an incredibly dysfunctional childhood, who had a psychologically abusive stepfather, who ran away from home at the age of 10, who did have an amazing mum, who had people who came into my life at certain times who helped me. And in the midst of all that crap that happened, maybe some little shoots of purpose and talent began to grow. But it's been a long story and it's been a long journey. But I get out of bed and I'd love to tell you that when I speak, that my primary purpose is I want to make a difference. And yeah, I do, but I'm going to let you into a little secret here. What drives me also is not about making a difference, but is actually, if I'm really honest with you, is the fear of failure. When you heard me speak at the College of Policing, which was a brilliant, I had a great day, and that was, I think, one of the reasons it was a great day is because everybody who was there that day, Ryan, was there because they wanted to be, and some people had travelled literally hundreds of miles to be there. But one of the things when I woke up that morning, it wasn't just a case of I need to make a difference. But one of the things I want to challenge my own complacency about is you do not want to fail here. You do not want to think, because I was good yesterday, I'll automatically be good again today. So there is that sense of be the best version of you can be. Don't take your success for granted, however you want to view success. And yeah, of course you want to make a difference, because we're going to leave this planet at some stage. And when I'm lowered into the grave or put in that flipping oven, however my wife or kids are going to get rid of me, you know, I want to feel that I'll leave people with some good memories, that maybe when Paul McGee was on this planet, there was just maybe one or two little things he did that added value to people's lives.
Yeah, and one or two things on other people's bookshelves. And that's legacy, isn't it? The impact of not just what you do, but then the things that people go on to do as a result of reading things like this. And I guess, would you describe these as life lessons from Paul McGee? Are these things that you've had to learn about your own life for you then to be able to summarize and articulate them for other people?
Absolutely. I mean, just going back to how things can change people's lives, and I think we all need to be aware. I know there's a number of people I've spotted who have joined this who are teachers. And I think we need to always sometimes appreciate that sometimes we will make a difference in people's lives and we'll never know about it. My son hated biology. He's now a doctor. Why? Because he got a new teacher. One woman, when she first heard me speak, was working in a carpet factory. She's now a school teacher. One woman who heard me speak had just split up with her boyfriend and said, oh, well, if it's meant to be, we'll get back together again. She heard me speak about don't leave your dreams in and carpe diem seize the day. The day after she heard me speak, she rang up her boyfriend. She said, look, I don't know whether we're ever going to randomly meet again. I need to tell you, I still love you and I want to get back together again. And what was really interesting was she saw me 6 months later and she says, I get married in 2 months. And that was because of hearing you speak. Now, I think the thing is, though, is that when you think about that background that I had, that very dysfunctional upbringing, I didn't sort of like go on the hunt for all these ideas and insights because I wanted to write a book and speak. You're dead right. I want you to do them to help me. How could I sort out my own, what I would call my own faulty thinking, my low self-esteem, my insecurities? I am not by nature a super positive, relaxed person. I can be prone to pessimism, as my wife will tell you, particularly when watching Wigan Athletic or Bradford City. I'm also quite prone to anxiety as well. So actually, when I first came across these ideas and insights, they were very much to try and help me first of all. But then in helping me, I realized that maybe some of this stuff could be helpful to other people. And it seems to be the case.
I think in the intro to How to Have a Great Life, you talk about who am I to be telling you how to have a great life, and almost like the humility of which you summarized that was great, because I guess I can understand that, you know, you are simply putting out something that might make a difference to other people. And actually, some people might not do that based on the thoughts that they have in their head. And I think you tackled that really well in your introduction.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm not here to. I'm here just to share some stuff that I've sought out and sometimes I've stumbled across. It seems to have impacted me from what other people tell me, from where I was to where I am now. Remember, I built a business for a start. It's taken years to do so, but literally from a zero position. Invalidity benefit. No one could I couldn't get a job because no one had hired me because I couldn't pass a medical. And people sometimes like very poo-poo all this self-help rubbish or this American stuff. And I'm like, look, it's fine. There's, you know, you shall know them by their fruit was written 2,000 years ago by a Jewish writer. And I like to look at people's lives and think, well, is there something in their life where there's born fruit that says maybe some of what they believe in and what they practice actually is beneficial? And I don't want to be all talk. You know, one of the chapters in that book, How to Have a Great Life, is take your talk for a walk. And let me tell you, I need to practice this consistently because it doesn't come naturally to me like it does to other people.
Yeah. Where was I going with this? You signed this book, Carpe Diem. What does that mean? Why did you write those words?
Well, I cite a lot of books. So it's always good to have a consistent message. I think it is a question of seizing the day. You know, there's in the other book, How to Have a Great Life, I actually do say make peace with paradox, which in other words, for me, two conflicting views can be true. So for me, on one level, you know, that phrase, whatever will be, um, it's not helpful. It's like, well, don't go, well, whatever will be, considering 2019. No, actually, there are things I can do to maybe influence this journey. And that means not just having good ideas or good intentions, but carpe diem, seize the day. But, you know, I have to also be honest with you and say, there are certain things that are out of our control. I don't think there's much I can do to influence how Brexit is going to unfold in this country. And yet I've been quite stressed and anxious about it, to the point where I need to take a bit of a brain break from it and realise, you know what, in some cases, whatever will be, will be. So that's quite paradoxical. But it's a question of not one size fits all approach philosophy to life. We have to be flexible and adaptable. And can I share with you
Please.
What I think is a tool which I've been developing a lot more recently, and I cover it in both Sumo and the How to Have a Great Life book. And that is... people sometimes say to me, well, what's one of the most important tools for you in terms of your own journey? And I'd have to say, in a nutshell, it's one word, and that's reflection. And it is that question of getting off autopilot and living life with intention. And in the Sumo book, I talk about the life blend model, and I have 4 quadrants that I think people should look at that can blend and merge together. One of them is my career and work, which years ago, that was just all my life. I just obsessed with that. But now I'm thinking it's career and work. It's also relationships. The third one is recreation and well-being. And the fourth one is contribution and giving back. And what I've done with those 4 quadrants, and if anyone wants to email me, paul.mcgee@thesumoguy.com, we can send you this. But what I now do in each of those quadrants is I have several questions. In fact, this is the kind of the life blend model. You won't be able to see all the questions. But every Saturday or Sunday, I reflect on those questions. So in terms of my relationships, you know, a great question to ask yourself, who made me laugh this week? And sometimes I realise that the people who make me laugh, I don't have contact enough with them. You know, who do I need to reconnect with, or who do I want to reconnect with? In terms of my recreation and well-being, because everyone's talking about setting goals, but you're often thinking about your business. You know what I'm often thinking about now? How much alcohol did I consume this week? What's my mental diet like? Who am I listening to in terms of podcasts? What am I reading? So I think a lot about life is not just doing it on autopilot. It's about being more intentional and having these 4 quadrants: career, relationships, recreation, well-being, and this contribution, and having some good questions to reflect on. That's what kind of keeps me focused. And making sure in all you do, you have some fun along the way, particularly if you get the technology right.
Absolutely. You talked about the very first question you asked me at the very start, where is this on a scale of 1 to 10? That is one of your 7 powerful Sumo questions.
Yeah.
What are the other 6?
What are the other 6? Well, out of all the 7, that does seem to be the most one that is often talked about, because our primitive emotional part of our brain often hijacks us. So we don't access what is known as the neocortex. And so we kind of get onto this kind of like everything's an 8 or a 9, including technology. You know what, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10's death, it was a 1 or a 2. The others are, how important will this be in 6 months' time? So on June the 20th, what's stressing you out today? How big a deal will it be on June the 20th in 6 months' time? Is my response appropriate and effective? Is my third question. Another one, which I just think we need to constantly be asking ourselves, is, okay, sometimes we have issues, we have some challenges, things aren't always going well. How can I influence or improve this situation? Maybe not transform it overnight, but what can I do to influence and improve this situation? Questions 5 and 6. Very much self-reflection and coaching, rather than keep beating yourself up and thinking you're a failure. And I love what kids are taught in terms of growth mindset, that the word fail can stand for FAIL, first attempt in learning. I love it. And question 5 is, well, what can I learn from this? Question 6, what would I do differently next time? And question number 7, what can I find that's positive in this situation? I've got this phrase, your brain helps you find what you're looking for, but you've got to give it a steer on not what to know, what to look for. And I just find those questions, again, it's not about being rah, rah, I'm a tiger, I must be positive, positive. Sometimes it's just about asking yourself some good questions.
Yeah.
You know, from a psychology point of view, they call it solution-focused thinking. I just call it developing some fruity thinking.
Yeah, I love that. I'm conscious of time, and if you're going to be reflecting on your life blend.
I know. Well, my wife has walked out of the room. She's put the knife away, which means we've got another 5 minutes at least, I reckon.
Fantastic. If you had 30 seconds or a minute to describe sumo, how would you describe it?
I'll take less than 30 seconds. How do I get the best out of myself? How do I get the best out of others? And how do I get the best out of life? And I just came up with 7 ideas that I genuinely believe can help us to get the best out of ourselves, get the best out of others, get the best out of life. But we never stop learning. This journey is never really going to end. It's not, I'm now at a place where I've got life sussed. I am still learning loads about me, loads about other people. And just interestingly, sometimes, in all humility, I'm pretty good at helping other people. The person I have a problem helping at times is me. I mean, I wrote a book called How to Succeed with People. My wife said to me recently, you should read that sometime. I said, thanks for the feedback, Helen. But it's true. Sometimes we're good at helping other people. But, you know, the higher your emotional involvement in a situation, the lower your rational perspective. So sometimes when I'm sharing sumo to help other people, I realize it's helping me almost by default as well. So get the best out of yourself, get the best out of others, and get the best out of life. That is what sumo is about in a nutshell.
I love that. And when I normally introduce these, so this is episode 32, and what I've been introducing at the start is the reason I'm passionate about mindset is because I think the way that separates people, I think those that have gone on and done great things, I think it's the way that people think, which will inform the way people act, which will then inform the results that they get. And when you spoke, you talked about your tier model.
That's right.
And E plus R.
Yeah,
E plus R equals O. Can you touch on that for us?
Yeah, so the tier model very quickly is about, so whether we call it thinking, mindset, attitude, self-talk, inner dialogue, conversations you have inside your head, we've all got a narrative, we've all got a story to carry on in our head. And sometimes it's not simply it's not the situation, it's how we see it, what we think about it, that affects how we feel, our emotions, how we act and behave, and the results we get in life. So that's tier. That's kind of like drawing on cognitive behavioral psychology to kind of talk about, you know, some of what underpins some of my material. E plus R equals O, 1991. I'm in my car, I'm in my Fiat 1.4 little red car. I'm listening to an audio cassette because that's how long ago it was. And a guy called Jack Canfield in an audio program called Self-Esteem and Peak Performance, uses this phrase E plus R equals O. He says it's not the event, it's how you respond that influences your outcome. And then he moves on to his next idea. I'm like, I need to pull over because for me, I realized I'd lived life for me up until that point was E equals O. If that's the event, you know what the outcome is going to be. If they say this, you know what the outcome is going to be. If they do that, you know what the outcome is going to be. If there's change at work, that's the event, you know what the outcome is going to be. It's like, it's not simply the event. It's how you respond or react that influences the outcome. Our problem very often in life is we react on autopilot without thinking. And we sometimes get a bad outcome and go, it's to do with the event. No. It's not just the event. It's how I reacted or responded to it that influenced the outcome. My son is 25. 2 months before he was born, back in 1993, my wife, who was 7 months pregnant at the time, walked past a bin in Warrington Town Centre. 30 minutes later, it blew up. It was the IRA bombing in Warrington in 1993. Wow. 2 boys died that night, or that day, sorry. One of them was a lad called Tim Parry. He was 12 years old. His parents had a tragic event. Their outcome could have been bitterness for the rest of their lives. Do you know what their response was? They basically set up a peace centre in Warrington. So they have children from Northern Ireland, from the Catholic community and the Protestant community go there. Not only that, but this peace centre got so much of a profile. You got Israeli children and Palestinian children coming to Warrington to learn more about how to work well together and understand each other a bit more. You know, this Peace and Reconciliation Centre, they had an appalling event, but their outcome wasn't triggered purely by the event, but of how they responded to it. And I think we need to embrace that. It's so easy just to wear that victim T-shirt, play the BSE game, blame someone else. And yeah, there's lots of things that happen to you and the people who are listening right now, and you're not responsible for it. I get that. I get some of the stuff that happened to me as a child. I wasn't responsible for it. But, you know, as time goes on, maybe we're not responsible for what happened, but we do become responsible for how we respond to it. I came across, sorry to be heavy, a woman, a gorgeous woman who'd actually been sexually abused. And she actually was speaking at a conference. And do you know what she said, though? She said, I am not a victim of child sexual abuse. I am a survivor. And I'm like, whoa, here is somebody who could so easily be wearing a victim T-shirt. She chose not to wear the T-shirt. She said, not only am I a survivor, Paul, I'm going to flip and become a leader and thrive in life as well. And so for me, let's just always be aware. Some of our events aren't great, but it's not just the event, it's how you respond. And some of that response isn't just, I need to now become more self-sufficient. No, sometimes your response is having the humility to say to others, I need some help here. Because maybe if you give me some support and I'm honest and open with you about where I'm at in life at the moment, then I might get some better outcomes. So E plus R equals O.
Wow. I love that. Paul, I'm very conscious of your time. I'm always grateful for your time. Last question then for me is, my ethos is all about being always better than yesterday, helping people and teams be always better than yesterday. What does that phrase mean to you?
It means that it could just be literally a phrase, but at the end of the day, it's a kind of challenge to me. And that challenge is very much linked into my life blend model, because I realize at times, even last year, even after you heard me speak, certain things kind of went off the rails for me. I was emotionally struggling with a few things. And I realized that for me, it's not just a nice phrase about being better tomorrow than I was today, but it's like, yeah, but yes, but how? How do you do that? And for me, something like that life blend model, looking at 4 key areas of my life, reflecting on those questions and realizing that change isn't always about something that happens overnight, but it's those little small steps that you take in the right direction that you want to go that can actually make a big difference. And Tom Peters in 1982 wrote a book called In Search of Excellence. One of the things he said in that book was the excellent companies that he featured didn't do one thing 1,000% better. They did 1,000 things 1% better.
Yeah.
I don't do 1,000 things, but I do a few things. Yeah. And I keep thinking on what little tweaks or changes can I do to become even better? Because seriously, there was a 1 in a million chance that you were born, that you were you and I was me, okay? About 1 million sperm were released, only 1 of them fertilized the egg. The other lot, they didn't make it. So the fact that you are you and I am me, that is a huge privilege. And I want to make the most of this privilege on the planet. And I realize it isn't about just simply what I can get. It's about what I can give. And hey, I'm super passionate about this, Ryan. You flipping got me going here, mate.
Love it. Love it. Okay, whilst you're in the mood then, please could you share with us a final thought from Paul McGee?
I'll quote a Jewish rabbi who said it's called Yeshua. And Yeshua would say to his followers and to people who would listen to him, he would say, you know what, ultimately, it's probably better to give than to receive. And neuroscience now says if you want real well-being and be at peace, don't keep thinking about what you can get. Think about what you can give. Because when you start giving, guess what? Your brain starts releasing oxytocin and dopamine, and you feel better. So it wouldn't be one of many thoughts that I have, but it just seems appropriate to think that sometimes it is about giving back, because when you give back to others in some way, you're going to receive just as much as well.
And I am very grateful and fortunate to be on the receiving end of that this evening. And many of our watchers and listeners and the people that are catching up on YouTube and the podcast, so I'm sure will feel the same. And just lastly then, how can people check out some more of your content? Where can they find you? Where can they follow you?
Okay, probably the best bet is my website, thesumoguy.com, and something you might find also helpful. I've got like a YouTube channel that you can get from the website, and just check out some of those videos. If you're on Twitter, then I'm at the Sumo Guy, and it's always great to get some feedback. And I will seriously at some stage, maybe not tonight, because my wife wants to watch an episode of Cold Feet that she's got recorded. So I'll be in big trouble if I didn't watch that. But tomorrow, I promise you, I'll read through all of those, comments that have been made, and I appreciate them.
That's brilliant. Paul McGee, you've been a gent, inspiring as always. Thank you so much for your time, and I wish you very well for the future. And I'm sure you've got another bestseller in you yet.
We'll see. We'll see. All right. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, guys, and thanks for listening.
Thank you. Take care. Bye, everybody.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye.